our TOI show. Good afternoon, I greet to the audiences and to our panels today. Such a lovely day to gather here to have a forum. I, Aisyah, will be your moderator for today. Our forum title today is Drugs, Don't Even Think About It. We are gathered here today to discuss a very interesting topic, which is drugs among athletes. As we all know, drug is something already becoming very common among athletes. We will always see athletes not qualifying certain competitions because they did not pass the doping test. Today, we have panels that have knowledge regarding the topic. Before we start our forum, I would like to introduce our panels for today. Our first panel is from the medical background. She is a graduate from University Malaya in Medi. She is now working in Hospital Kuala Lumpur as a sport medicine specialist. She is Dr. Nurul Safiah. How are you today, doctor? Okay. Next, our honored panel is a professor in sports science at University Malaya. He has been teaching sports science for about 10 years. We have invited the right person to talk about our topic today. He is Professor Muhammad Afiq Hazwan. How are you today, Professor? You're looking very smart.
Thank you for the compliment, my sweet moderator. And I'm feeling good and excited also because the audience is quite many and the issue is quite controversial, and I hope the audience can get something from my speech later on. Okay.
Next, we have a representative from an organization called AAPK that fights for the rights of the people that once used drugs and they continue to fight against drugs. She is Miss Nur Aisya Amirah. Welcome to our forum today. How are you today? I'm good. Thank you. Last but not least, our next panel is a person that has experienced drug usage in the past, but she has recovered and now on her feet again. She is an amazing and talented athlete. She is Miss Nurul Najira. How are you today, Miss Najira?
I'm good, and thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you to all our panels for making time today to discuss this very important topic, and hopefully we can get a lot from this discussion. First of all, we have 4 panels today. To start our forum today, I would like to ask Dr. Safi a question. As a certified doctor, you are the most qualified to be asked questions regarding the side effects of drugs in athletes. So, firstly, can you explain to us both the effects, which is the mental side effects, and also the physical side effects, and what are the medical aspects of this issue?
Thank you, Ms. Moderator, for the question. Mostly, some female and male users who are looking for steroids, including professional athletes, bodybuilders, and also who think they may look muscular to feel good at themselves. Because steroid is a form of testosterone, it will influence the change of characteristic of the gender, which means if someone take the steroid with a high dosage which not prescribed by a medical practitioner, it will cause a side effect to a person. Meanwhile, for the mental aspect, there are 3 effects I want to emphasize here, which are first is depression. Depression is a common side effect which even can lead to suicide. When someone is taking steroid, they become addictive and they want more, so they will think that they can't live without steroid. Hence, this is a starting point of violence which will be leading to more crime. That's all from me.
Thank you, Dr. Safi, for the answer. Now, I would like to welcome Professor Afiq to answer a question for you. As a professor that studies sports science and teaches the new athletes and new trainers regarding the usage of drugs, can you clarify to us the amount of dosage that is safe to be consumed and not to be considered overdose? And also, are there any other supplements other than drugs that can be used to improve athletes' performances? And what type of diet can they apply to replace the usage of drugs, but it also improve their performance just as using drugs does?
Okay, thank you very much. So we have 3 questions here. The first one is the amount of dosage that is safe to be used, and the second one is supplement to replace the drugs, and the third one is the diet. So we focus on the first question first. We cannot verify the amount of dosage that is safe to be tested, but we all know that the most crucial part is we need to understand how these drugs work. And looking at these days, most of the athletes are so competitive to win a medal for the country, to be proud by the old people, and that's why these drugs or so-called performance-enhancing drugs are commonly used by the society. Performance-enhancing drugs, aka doping, comes at greater risk, and we need to understand the potential benefit, risk and effect of the drugs. It might be useful in the future for boosting their performance, but we need to remember that it comes at greater cost. It could lead to death for certain cases, and it could give negative impact to your body. For example, the physical changes of the body, like the skin looks pale and so on. And we need to know that some of the drugs are not approved by Food and Drug Administration, or the short form is FDA. The drugs are commonly used by the sports, but in giving them the enough prescription, you need to consult with the someone who is expert in sport and the trainers. So for many doctors, to test the accurate amount of dosage is impossible, because we cannot test the large doses of drugs, for example steroid, to anybody, because it is unethical. Imagine you bring someone to the lab and test the large doses amount of drugs to the body and see what happens. It might turn something else. The result might be different. Maybe the subject will die. We don't know. So we cannot test on human body. That's why the use of drugs in large doses are not being well studied. Okay, I think the first question has been answered clearly. Okay, we move on to the second question. Are there supplements that can replace drugs? I have so many. It could be vitamins, herbs, extract, and so on. Looking at the division of FDA, supplement is not considered as drug, and in some point it can be food. But we need to remember that some of the supplements can be considered as illegal product, because there are something inside the supplement, and also can be said as contaminated, because some products are not well manufactured by authorized factory. So that's why FDA has labeled this kind of product as illegal and cannot be used on athletes. That's the second question. That's the second answer. Okay, the last question is the diet. I think we can apply the basic concept of diet. We call it a balanced diet. You can look at newspaper or something, just follow the food pyramid. But I want to specific about the balanced diet. A balanced diet is something that you give to your body enough nutrient and food that is considered as healthy. So in human body, you need to consume a lot of healthy food that has been mentioned in food pyramid. You need to get a lot of vitamins, milk, fresh vegetables, and so on. Without a good nutrient, your body might lead to several diseases. For example, fatigue. It might lead to infection and others. Another thing that can related to balanced diet is don't be too picky eaters. A picky eater is a person that selected a certain food that he or she can eat. It's not because like they are allergic to the foods that they want to eat, but they cannot eat certain food that is too to mushy or chewy or multi-texture food. So I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Ho, ho, ho. What is ho, ho, ho?
Ho, 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 as much vitamin B6 from 48 bananas. Ho, 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 as much calcium from 55 cups of milk. Ho, 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 as much iron from 3 kilos of spinach. Ho, ho, ho.
Horlicks packed with ho 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 goodness for the growing years.
Oh, that was a lot of information that we get from Professor Afiq. Next, I would like to ask Ms. Aisyah, representative from AADK, the organization that supports those who used to use drugs and also currently in rehabilitation and still recovering. Can you explain to us the statistics of drug users and also the type of drugs that are commonly used among athletes and what type of drugs are we focusing on today? And I would like to ask, is it ethic-wise when an athlete uses drugs, and what is your purpose on coming here today?
Okay, thank you to Ms. Moderator for inviting me to today's program. I am representative from the National Anti-Drug Agency. For the first questions, she asked about the statistic of drug users. And according to our agency, there were a total of 25,922 drug addicts were arrested nationwide last year, and out of the total, 20,956 involved were Malays, 1,947 were Chinese, 1,766 were Indians, 999 were Sabahans, 130 were Sarawakians, and others 147 persons, which clearly shows that Malays are the highest population that involved in drug abuse. Besides, statistics among developed countries also show that almost 90% of the rehabilitated drug users will go back to their original habit in 4 or 5 years. So it clearly shows that the number will keep increasing over years because each year we will get a different number of statistics. Okay, moving on to the second questions. The type of drugs that are commonly used among athletes. From my observation, there are 4 types of drugs that are commonly used among athletes, which is cocaine, marijuana, ecstasy, painkillers, and steroids. Cocaine and ecstasy are party drugs, which they can give you confidence builders and elevators. Marijuana will make problems and tomorrow go far away. Painkillers not only take physical pain away, but they also move life's concerns far out of reach. And steroid, which has been mentioned by the Dr. Safi just now, it will increase the growth of muscle in short of time. And for many, painkiller abuse slides into a heroin habit, so they will take heroin instead of painkillers. Some athletes will end up addicted to heroin, and the starting of the addiction is painkiller, which will lead to heroin. For the third question, from my opinion, it is not ethic-wise for athletes to use drugs unless there are a specific amount of dose that they can take for a certain period. The problem among athletes is that they do not have a specific dose when it comes to emergency case like steroid. They will tend to take steroid when they have upcoming competition, and they will have to increase their muscle size in a short period of time. But still, this kind of addiction will lead to career ending because it will be a mess if you take drugs. And I'm here personally because I would like to arouse the awareness of the severity of the drug addiction. And I want to emphasize more for the athletes because not all of the athletes were aware of the type of drugs they took, and maybe they took the wrong dose for each take. So basically when you take drugs, you will end up to addiction. And addiction is not something that is easy to stop. So it is better for us to refer to doctors for the prescription of the medicine that we want to take, because we want to prevent our athletes from taking drugs without their consent. Yes, those drugs will help the athletes achieve the highest performance in their sports, but it is only for temporary, and it is better to prevent than cure. So I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Lastly, we have with us today an athlete that has experienced herself being muddled up with drugs. I would like to ask a question to Ms. Najira. As an excellent performer on sports and a past user of drugs, there must be some reason why you decided to take drugs, and also there must be effects after using them. And as we are all aware that you have experienced depression at some part of your life, so can you share with us your experience on using drugs and after stopping it, and also how did you overcome it?
Okay, so hi, I'm a squash athlete. My name is Najira. Thank you to Moderator Aisyah for inviting me today upon this topic. Yes, I am a fast user. Well, in my early days of being an athlete, it was fun and all that, but I didn't think that I would actually take serious of the sport, because I thought I was just trying to have fun and all. And then a few years later, I started to get serious. The opponents got tougher, and then as we grow, as usual, our mental becomes weak. Not for everyone, but for me, yes. And then I can pretty much say that I went through a slump. I dropped from first place, and then I fall until 5th or 6th in a period of 3 months. So I think that's really that's a bad thing for me. Thankfully, I recovered quickly, thanks to my friends and family that I recovered quickly. They had helped me through my ups and downs, my breakdowns, and all they put up with myself. So I think that's all my experience I can share with you all. And I would like to advise all the athletes out there, please don't take drugs, because you'll end up in great mess. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
That was brave of you to share such personal memories with us. We are happy that you got through it and be with us today. Thank you, Ms. Najira. Hopefully we can learn a lesson from your experience. Thank you to all of our panels today for their excellent answers. We have got our answers from our excellent line of panels. Now I will open a slot for the audience for a Q&A session. We have got a question. It's from a user called Siti Zalihaf. It's from Facebook. It's a question for Dr. Safi. The question is, are steroids harmful?
Thank you, Siti Zalihaf, for the question. So some types of steroids are incredibly harmful for those who take them. Firstly, they are used to help to recover inflammatory conditions such as chronic bronchitis. But this type of substance are used to call corticosteroid. They are more beneficial rather than harmful version, which is anabolic steroid. Anabolic steroid, referred to as juice or roids, actually is synthetic form of male hormone, which is testosterone. So it is legitimately used to induce puberty or to help them to recover or cure wasting disease like AIDS and also cancer. But this kind of substance is called anabolic androgenic steroid. Aside from people who are prescribed to use this substance, there are some users who are looking for anabolic steroids to improve their appearance, their physical health, and also their performance. However, with this intended improvement in strength and also performance, there are unwanted short-term effects, which are acne, fatigue, trouble in sleeping, and also agitation. So it is advisable to use steroid if they are prescribed or to use in right dosage. Thank you.
Okay, we've got another question. It's from Lokman Hakim. It's for Miss Aisyah. The question is, what is the benefit for the society if organizations would organize such events about drugs?
Thank you to Lokman Hakim for the questions. So, the benefits that the society could get if organizations conduct such events about drugs is that they will be more aware of the drug abuse. When we talk about drug abuse, most commonly involved in this case are teenagers and high schoolers. So when we organize an event about drugs in schools or universities, they will get more information about the type of drugs that are commonly used nowadays. If we have friends or relatives that involved in sports, we could give them advice about drugs so that they will do prevention before taking certain drugs, so that they will not become addicted to those kind of drugs, because not all drugs are addictive. There are drugs that are used for medical purposes. So when we organize such events, we will benefit others and give exposure about the effects of the drugs. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, we are getting a lot of questions, but we can only have 4 questions minimum. Okay, there is another question from Aisyah Iman. It's from Professor Afiq. The question is, from your opinion, will steroids still be valid and still considered as a power drug for performances in the future?
That's a good response from one of the audience. The question is it still valid to use steroid in the future, and is it can be considered as a powerful drug to boost our result in sport? This has been discussed by many educators and someone who explains sport, because the issue is quite controversial, and some of them say yes and other people say no, because we go to our common sense that using drugs might affect your health. Looking at the good side is, if there is no use of drugs, the performance and the result for the particular athlete will gradually decrease. Because as we know, when we want to train the athletes, we need to use something that can be a catalyst to boost their muscle. So that's why the use of drugs is quite important to the sports.
Okay, last question from Adam Agat. The question is for Miss Najira. The question is, when you took the drugs, were you influenced by your fellow colleagues who also took steroids?
Okay, so thank you for one of our viewers. The question from Adam Magan. I think no, I was not influenced by friends or something. I just thought to myself that there are supplements that I could take to improve my performance. So yeah, I was not influenced, or maybe I was, because I heard stories from people like, oh, this guy took some supplements for his performance and he became good as so yeah, that's all.
Thank you to all that has asked questions, and thank you to the panels for answering them. That's the end of the Q&A session. I would like to thank all of our excellent panels for coming today and answer all of the questions. And I would also like to thank the audience for giving full cooperation throughout the forum. Thank you for watching Teo Aisya, Virility at its finest.
Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi. Pada penumpang Asia, silakan berhubung bersama kami.
Boleh. Dulu dah cerita dari pramugari.
Because my friends and family helped me through my breakdowns and I want to speak my kejut.
Inflammatory condition like chronic bronchitis.
The product
Corticosteroid.
Banyak kau.
Corticosteroid.
Steroid. Never mind. Pardon my pronunciation, but actually it's contact. Okay, Siti Zaliha.
And continue to watch our Teo Aisya, Virility at its finest.
So, back to the questions. What?
Virility at its finest.
Let's go ahead. Sekali lagi.
However, with this
Last